Alright, welcome to D Tangent. This is a CSGO map I blocked out and made during quarantine. If you decide, starting from the high ground, I wanted a V-shaped and mutually contested middle, and I wanted to play with Source Engine's underutilized grenade physics. From there, I tried making as many interesting engagement spots as possible, and then smashing them together. Note that I didn't try to copy Mirror's Edge's art style. At first, I just wanted to do a blockout, but then I wanted to try to give an impression of real plays. I added a bit of color, added a bit of shape, and it just turned out like this. Alright, let's do a walkthrough of the map. Walkthrough, let's go. So we start off up here at T-spawn, and when the terrorists spawn in, they have three immediate options. The first is the fight down mid. Over there is CT spawn. That way to B site, and that way to A site, as well as our two minis, a big rectangular white box, and a orange tower. Let's go head over to B site. So we approach through here, and have two options to exit. Blowing a hole in the wall, bare minimum environmental storytelling, and balcony up here we can overlook the rest of the bomb site. So for this bomb site, I tried to add as many areas of higher elevation, medium elevation, and then lower elevation in the geometry, just to keep it more interesting. This connects back to mid, but I want to go through B site first. So, assuming you approach from B site to the start of the round, there is a big street sign back here. Protects you a bit, and this building alleyway thing. The main separation that separates the T-side controlled, or the T-side controlled part of B site and the counter-terrorist controlled part of B site is this giant truck. This giant truck has a middle entrance, right entrance, or a right way around and a left way around. Let's go through the left, through the lower area. Again, bare minimum environmental storytelling. This is B site. The point is that the terrorists kind of have an advantage when it comes to taking the site, just because they have so many different options to attack from, including different elevations. And when it comes to the CTs, their main advantage is the sniper's nest back here, and any spots that they could potentially hide on in the site. Like here, there, down here, or if they can get high ground up here. For the sniper's nest back here, so I wanted to make a sniper's nest, and I wanted to play with different types of cover. So we got horizontal cover that barely what's it called? Covers your whole. It's barely chest high. We got vertical cover. They do very much change the way you're sniping depending on what cover you have, and as well this piece that takes a little bit of a jump to get to, but it is probably the most powerful spot if you wanted to stay here. Risk reward, I guess. To prevent the sniper's nest from being very overpowered, I kind of made it an enclosed space that's very easy to throw grenades at, especially to smoke someone behind it. As well, you don't really have many avenues for exit, so it's one way in, one way out, to prevent it to get overpowered. So yeah, this is the rest of the B site. The cover on B site, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the most happy with, but it is enough that it creates interesting gunfights. Let's head over to CT spawn. So this is CT spawn. When you start at the lowest elevation, whereas the terrorists start at the highest elevation. And you have three immediate ways to go. Mid corridor, right straight to A site from underground, and straight to B site on street level. If you notice there's a backboard up here, it's because I really enjoy hot flashes, smokes, and just in general. The Source Engine has some really amazing grenade physics that's really underutilized in the game, and I understand like grenades in this game don't do a lot of damage. There's a limit on how many you can carry, but they present really interesting gameplay opportunities that I see very rarely utilized. So a lot of this level I built with grenades and heavy grenade in mind. Alright, we're gonna go mid, and let's actually go to A. So A has two approaches. We got through here, the underground and indoor approach and the outdoor approach. So A site's a barrel facility, whereas B site is like street level. To be honest, I don't know what's in these barrels, but I thought it made for a good theme. Oops. I also really love double doors and slopes for bot flashing. Again, also create lots of interesting gunfights and ways to enter areas. That's not in there. But yeah, this is A site, the control room. So I marked on both sides, or both sites, I marked the ground where the bomb site is, just so it's visible to a first-time player. And this is the site. We got a lower area, a mid area, an upper elevation area. This probably has the greatest advantage if you wanted to overlook the site, though it doesn't have much cover, and it is also easy to grenade, or to counter with grenades. The lower area is interesting because originally I wanted to make it so that with A site, terrorists get one approach, but counter terrorists get 2 ways to enter. This corridor was just a blank corridor and did not lead to very interesting gameplay. It turns out adding just a single nook right here and another one right here dramatically improves the types of engagements, as well as having this be a certain width that you can completely block off with a single smoke grenade. Like, these 2 changes alone dramatically changed just how much fun fighting in this area was. Alright, let's head towards T side of A site. As you can see, that's the orange tower. So when I constructed both A site and B site, I knew the general layout I had in mind. And what I did from there is I created a bunch of different either cover placements or just mini engagements and kind of stuck them together. So this cover versus this cover, where you have a pretty decent place to hide and shoot and a place to retreat. Down here, again, these are the barrels, and if you can tell, this is a backboard, or attacking players who spend too much time hiding in that spot. Right there's a mini sniper's nest. Terrorists have to approach, despite the fact. Oh yeah, it's also a backboard. Despite the fact that terrorists only really have one lane to approach in terms of from T-spawn, once they get to back here, they can approach, again, high level, mid level, low level. I just think that the different elevation is one of the main issues I see with not only my own custom maps, but a lot of community custom maps in general. Just stick with a flat plane. And honestly, that's not a bad idea for a lot of maps. I just think that when you're not making your own game and all you can play with is geometry, playing with different elevations really adds a lot. Right, so there's pyramids here, and this fountain type weird, what's it called, cover placement. The reason I have cover here, despite the fact that not many gunfights take place, is either on a rotation or on a save round. Some gunfights do happen on the approach to spawn. So I try not to neglect those areas too much when making this game. When making this level. Alright, now that we've seen A site from T-spawn and B site from T-spawn, let's go down mid. So mid has a sloped shape. That's partially where tangent came from, partially because of slopes, and I was thinking about slopes and I was in calculus class, not paying attention, but yeah, so this is the orange box that both T side and CT side contest. Let's actually take a view from above. So when I designed mid, I wanted to make it mutually contested, and so I ended up with a sort of V-shaped sightline where both sides from near the beginning of the round can get sightline access to the orange box really easily. And let's go to CT. CT also can watch orange box without crossing into the terrorist sightlines. I think this is important because CSGO in general kind of like favors the defender in higher level play, and just over time it just favors the defender. So the most fun maps are the ones that give the attackers a lot of advantage. Take Dust 2 for instance. Not only does it start T side on a higher elevation and CT on a lower, it gives T side control of mid from the beginning. So I wanted to favor the attacker, partially because other maps that I like do it, also partially because playing super defensively, especially on like a map like Nuke, doesn't lead to the most fun or interesting gameplay. I know other maps are like more balanced than Nuke, that are still CT sided, but balance balance is not exactly what I was going for. I wanted to see how much fun I could have with the different geometry. Last few things I want to go over when I'm going through the geometry of this map. I did add areas where if you are skilled, you don't have to take the long way. So for instance, to get on top of the building, the long way would be go around the alley, up the ladder, and on top. Whereas you could just jump over here if you know how to crouch jump. I also added as many risk-reward, what's it called, scenarios when it comes to cover placement. So that would be one of them. If I could head back to a site, I'll show a few others. It mostly has to do with grenade backboards and counters. Like this area. This would be incredibly powerful of a spot if it connected to the bottom right here, because you could just loop around. However, I did want this to be a powerful spot that you'd be stuck in and you'd be vulnerable and you would have very little cover when trying to leap out. Another place is here. So if you're a T-side attacker and you're trying to get to A site, number one, you don't have much visibility. I try to use this kind of like fencing. It's something you could see through and shoot through, but you can't walk through. Here, I wanted to deny visuals entirely. So if you're coming here, it's up to sneak. And if you do want to use this powerful position to attack to attack CT side, I did want to make this area pretty vulnerable, not only to this piece of cover right here, but also grenade backboard. So, yeah, I think that is pretty much it for the walkthrough. Let's see if I'm missing anything. Right, I think that's it. Thank you for checking out my... Oh, you know what? Let me do a flyover, actually. So, in my flyover, here is A site, or A side, as you can see. Single approach, no connections to mid. However, CTs get two different access entry points to the site. B site, terrace get an entry point here, there, and mid, whereas CTs only get one entry point to the site. Despite that, it has a lot more cover. And then we have mutually contested V-shaped mid. If you notice, despite the fact that A site has a fairly consistent visual theme of the barrel processing plant, the pipes, the barrels all over the place and stuff, B site has one that's decently consistent, even though, like, in terms of city planning, this wouldn't make much sense. I did think that I could, like, use architecture and geometry to a degree to convey like what this place is supposed to be. But it kind of operates on dream logic, since mid and the connecting areas between don't really serve as a proper transition. It's just kind of one thing then the other. So, dream logic. Anyway, I would recommend that if you can, at least walk through this map, try it out, grab some grenades, start throwing them in places, see what you can find. The only issue is that it's pretty difficult to get any quality feedback or playtest feedback from bots. Bots aren't particularly good at using grenades strategically. Even though their navigation mesh is fine, it's really difficult to get any quality feedback from anything other than a full team of 10 playtesters, which unfortunately do not have much access to. Anyway, thank you for checking out my map. Yeah.